What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel, Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's #1 couch detective, and I'm here for the news. And I'm going to be going over several clips that have transpired over the last week. 1. Troubling history of drugs in New York City daycare centers. Suspect arrested in shooting of sheriff's deputy in Los Angeles. And a sitting female U.S. Congress member, Boebert, caught explicitly groping on tape at family-friendly play, which is the play was Beetlejuice. And I'm going to go over several other clips of 2 models coming up dead in downtown Los Angeles, Hunter Biden suing the IRS, and the Delphi murders. And it's weird that the city is called Delphi, because we know, anybody who knows anything about history, in Greece, they had Delphi, and the people will go to quote unquote what you would call the oracles, and they were ritualistically murdered. But in this shooting in Los Angeles of the sheriff deputy, it seems on the face value that he was targeted. But we're going to cover that clip after this one. This troubling history of drugs in New York City daycare centers. Now, there are a lot of lowlives and scumbags out here. And using a daycare center as your drug central station to stage all of your chicanery out of is ridiculous. And you deserve to have the whole kitchen sink, bathroom sink, and every other sink thrown at you when you go to court. But what's even more disturbing is that you leave this in the reach of toddlers, which is mind-boggling. Because toddlers, you're talking 2 feet tall, they can reach out of all the places, air vents, the top of closets, all these other places where you can put this stuff at. You put it in a place to where the kids can reach it. There's a rule in drug dealing. Is it the #1 rule? Maybe. But it's most definitely a rule, and everybody's heard it. Don't get high off your own supply. Why? Because it leads to complete negligence. And obviously, somebody within this drug organization was getting high. Let's take a look at the clip.
The urine of the 8-month-old girl who survived the overdose tested positive for fentanyl. Fortunately, we have reported multiple times this decade on drugs in daycare. Our stories were often based in the box.
They think of the worst places to hide their drugs, conceal them in a way that they won't be discovered by law enforcement. And daycare, though, is completely outrageous.
The Federal Drug Enforcement Administration now joining forces with the NYPD after 4 children overdosed at Divino Niño Daycare. Toddler Nicholas Dominici could not be saved with Narcan.
Why were there drugs in the daycare?
Court papers revealed a kilo of suspected fentanyl was found in the daycare's hallway closet.
A kilo of fentanyl in its purest form can kill up to 500,000 people.
Sad.
And thing is, who even wants to deal a drug that's so potent and so dangerous that the touch of it, a sniff of it, anything in its purest form can kill you instantly? They said the drug, just 1 kilo, can kill over 500,000 people. That sounds like some military grade shit. That sounds like some shit you put in a bomb and drop over your enemy. This is absurd. And to have this shit next to children, hey man, whatever these people get, they deserve. Swift kick in the ass, long jail sentence, the beatings, putting cells where things might not go your way. But this is disturbing, where they were able to unconsciously or consciously put these drugs in a place to where the children can reach them. It's just ridiculous. And like I said, they got somebody within this was getting high. There's no doubt about that, because I guarantee you this wasn't what the organization was designed to do. But when you have negligence, obviously anything can happen.
It is not the first time small Bronx children have been put at risk in daycare. 10 years ago this month, the owners of Fun World on Rosedale Avenue were busted for storing cocaine in lunch boxes, keeping $180,000 in cash and a 9mm gun in a stash house diagonally across the street.
All the indications are that this was a very high-level narcotics trafficking operation.
5 years later, a child at Little Inventors Daycare was passing around crack vials. One little girl ate some of the drug before she spit it out.
Looked like rocks or pebbles.
How enough? That's what I'm saying. Like, how does the child get a hold of crack vials? It's just so ridiculous on so many levels. And the people who go into jail aren't the people who actually running the organization 9 times out of 10. Obviously, a lot of these things come from the cartels, and because like a lot of the fentanyl is made through China and Mexico. So by the time they get up to New York, the street value is through the roof. And for them to be storing it this way is ridiculous. Like I said, it's one thing for them to store that shit at a daycare. It's another thing to have it in the reach of the children.
The previous incidents did not involve a child dying. Fentanyl has changed the game. A morsel can be lethal. A study published this year by the journal Pediatrics showed 731 children under age 5 were fatally poisoned by fentanyl between 2005 and 2018, often at home. And in a city where working parents rely on daycare so they can pay their bills, what happened at Divino Nino is alarming.
These traffickers will go to any extent and by all means necessary to move their poison. This is a $500 billion business, and they're motivated by greed.
The fact that 2 kilo presses were found, one in the daycare's hallway and another in a rented room, suggests this was much more than a street dealing operation.
So I would say that somebody that's pressing powder into kilo form is involved in what we call wholesale distribution.
Now, if there was fentanyl powder on the floor or perhaps a counter, it's very possible.
And as you see, this little boy passed away. I mean, that's just terrible. Cute little fella. Never getting the chance to grow up and live his life. Dying of a fentanyl overdose out of all things. I mean, that's just sad and tragic and just terrible, man. And, I don't feel no pity for these people. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. They deserve everything they get. Like I said, hopefully the judge throws the book at them and they get the maximum they can get. And a few beatings on the way in there.
The children's hands could have touched it. They would be exposed. Maybe they ate it. The DEA is holding a fentanyl and poisoning summit at John Jay College on October 3rd with information all of us can benefit from.
Terrible circumstance, terrible situation. Condolences to the family. Rest in peace to the little fella. And, hopefully the other kids who didn't OD, who were sick, just got sick. Hopefully they're okay. But terrible. Let's take a look at this next case. Suspect arrested shooting of sheriff's deputy. Now, I've covered the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. They have a huge gang problem in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Other sheriffs were testifying against other sheriffs about the mistreatment if they didn't want to join a gang and they didn't want to play ball. They would get bad assignments. They wouldn't be treated correctly. They would be, some said they was in fear for their life. So I'm not saying this whole thing was a setup, but I'm also not taking it off the table. Period, point blank. And I talk about it all the time. MK Ultra mind control. Some of these young men have psych doctors. And they've had mental illness for a long time. And I always ask, what medication were they given? What was the side effects of the medication? And if the side effects were suicidal thoughts, then how many other people who've been on the news been taking the same medication? And what are the doctors telling them? You just never know what's going on in a lot of these mental institutions. Mental institutions are one of the biggest mysteries in the United States. We don't know nothing about them because you hear mental institutions, you don't want nothing to do with it. You don't want to look in there. You ain't asking nobody to look in there. None of us. So they're doing all type of wild shit in some of these mental institutions. Yes, there's MK Ultra mind control going on in some of these places. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying this wasn't a random act because it could have been. I always leave room that I could be wrong, but I'm just giving you another side because obviously some of these things that are happening, you have to look at it and say this had to have been targeted. It looked targeted. Let's take a look at this clip.
Into that deadly ambush of an LA County Sheriff's deputy in his patrol car. Tonight here, the dramatic arrest of the suspect in his wheel car from Los Angeles.
Tonight, the suspect is in custody in the ambush killing of 30-year-old LA Sheriff's Deputy Ryan Klinkenbrummer. Early this morning, 29-year-old Kevin Catano Salazar surrendering with his hands in the air.
Our SWAT team were out there for several hours trying to de-escalate the situation.
The suspect's family tells us the SWAT team shot chemical agents into the second story of the house. You can see the holes there in the broken glass. Investigators say they recovered numerous firearms.
And as you can see, this looks like a really nice neighborhood in Los Angeles. These are basically $1 million homes. You know, at the bare minimum, 900,000. What was going on out there, I don't know. But a lot of times, a lot of these kids are coming from these homes and they have mental illnesses. And a lot of times when you go into the news clip and you see the home they come from, it's always a lot of times it'd be really nice. You'd be shocked. You think he comes from some hovel and it's just, you know, he's just scraping by. And then you go to his neighborhood and it's classy and it's working class and it's people who got money. And you say, damn, what's going on?
A vehicle of interest from the scene. The suspect's mother inside during the standoff.
I want all the people to know that my son is sick. He has schizophrenia, and the police know. And I asked for help so many times, and they didn't do nothing.
Which is interesting, you guys. Like she just said, her son is sick. He has schizophrenia. If you have been diagnosed with schizophrenia, then they also, common sense will tell you that he's under some kind of medication and what are the side effects. And when he went to the doctor, how long was he at the doctor? Has he been admitted? And when he was admitted, how long was he under care? And when you under care, what's happening? We never know what's happening when these people are under care. That's why I say some of these people are sent back out on a mission. Allegedly. I'm alleged. But we know MK Ultra mind control was real. We know it was successful. We know it was being used. We know it's still being used. And why wouldn't they? If you can send basically a drone out there, a robot, to kill, not remember what happened and self-destruct. Man, I've done so many videos on this. Manchurian candidates. Like the Denzel Washington movie. It's ridiculous. But don't be shocked if nothing comes of this. Not that he won't be charged and prosecuted, but I'm saying like you'll never get the answer to exactly why. But like I said, you have to be careful with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. It's riddled with gangs, and it's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts. If one guy was going to testify against a whole group of guys, you just never know.
The arrest coming after authorities zeroed in on a dark gray Toyota Corolla seen in this surveillance video obtained by our station KABC. Watch the car pulling up next to the deputy's cruiser. According to authorities, the deputy was fatally shot as he sat in his patrol car outside the Palmdale Sheriff's Station. On Saturday night, the procession.
He looked like he followed him, watched him, waited for the right opportune time. When the light turned red, he drove up on him, shot him. Let's take a look at it again. Look.
The deputy's cruiser. According to authorities, the deputy was fatally shot as he sat in his patrol car outside the Palmdale Sheriff's Station. On Saturday night, a procession escorting Klinkenbrummer's body. His colleagues saluting the third-generation deputy.
He was murdered, ambushed by a coward.
Do you believe that this was a random attack?
Why he did this, I have no idea. Was he targeted? I'm assuming he was. But our intent is to find out.
Hey, Sheriff.
And if he was targeted, why was he targeted? Why would that young man who has schizophrenia, target him? Because we know when I grew up, there was, we've heard of people and seen people who had schizophrenia, and they never targeted cops. They never targeted people in general. They just was crazy. You see a schizo, you say this motherfucker's schizophrenic. But schizophrenics, we never heard of them murder. When I was coming up, schizophrenics wasn't murderers. They weren't mass shooters. But now, all of a sudden, everybody who has mental illness is capable damn near of a mass shooting.
Robert Luna reading a statement from his family.
Ryan was recently engaged to the love of his life. As our firstborn son, Ryan will be greatly missed by his family, friends, and the Sheriff's Department as a whole.
Maybe tonight the big question is, why did this happen? The sheriff says the motive is still under investigation and that the DA is aggressively pursuing the case.
We're thinking of that deputy's family tonight, Bill Carr from Los Angeles.
Hi, everyone.
Another interesting case. Question is, what was going on with the deputy? And if it was targeted, why was he targeted? And who would want him targeted? That's the questions that they have to ask. And if it leads back to the sheriff's department, I got a feeling they'll sweep that thing right under the rug because even they believe he was targeted. So let's take a look at this next clip. Bobart caught explicitly groping on tape at a family-friendly play. Now, when I was coming up as a teenager, there's no doubt about it. There was a lot of pocket pool being played when you take your young lady to the movie theater. A lot of groping, kissing, rubbing, touching. A lot of things happen in the movie theater. Even some things over the top. But there is a rule to it. When you're sitting with people in back of you, you get blankets, covers, and you try to have something to where nobody can see your hands. That's called common decency. Now, I've done some wild things in the movie theater, but I always sat in the back and in the corner because when people watching movies, they're always looking forward. Now, this was a play and not a movie, but the same rules apply. But when you're a sitting U.S. Congresswoman, you have to be even more vigilant in what you're doing and being aware of your surroundings. But when you're getting high, you've had some drinks and you find somebody really attractive and you're playing teenage games, you tend to get your ass popped and caught. Let's take a look at the clip.
Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado has long railed on the House floor that the left is grooming children by exposing them to what she calls obscene content, in reference to things like drag performances for children and the use of LGBTQ inclusive flashcards that teach colors to students. Well, on Friday,
Well, do I believe that the left is trying to groom children? Allegedly, they are. Allegedly. Why a drag queen need to read to children is beyond me. And teach them colors and flashcards is beyond me. Why would a man need to dress up as a woman to teach kids colors, numbers, and read them stories? I have no idea. Maybe you do. Maybe you into that. Maybe you're okay with that. But some people aren't. And, for them to put that up as some kind of just reason to criticize her is absurd. It sounds ridiculous that was your sound off. That was your starting point to criticize her. That's ridiculous.
Burt apologized for her own behavior, coming at a recent performance of the family-friendly musical Beetlejuice showing in Denver.
That's a nice show.
That's a very, yeah,
That's very family-friendly.
Yeah, that's for the kids. Flash card. She's worried about flash. She's worried.
Now, when you seen the top of that theater, let's take a look again. You see the top of that theater, you guys? I'm going to show you where you're supposed to sit at.
That's a nice show.
That's a very, yeah,
That's very family-friendly.
Yeah, that's for the kids.
Now, as you can see this theater, you're supposed to be in the back, in the corner. Yeah. But if you want the theater to be kind of half empty, you don't want everybody sitting in a seat next to you. That's reckless. That's a little reckless.
Flash card. She's worried about flash.
She's worried about flash cards. And let's also, as we're looking here at footage, let's give credit to the quality of the night vision cameras at this theater in Denver, Colorado. Extraordinarily clear, because the 36-year-old Congresswoman first denied reports that she had been vaping during the performance. You'll see
She was having a blast.
According to the Denver Post, a pregnant woman seated behind her asked her to stop.
Taking flash pictures.
She partying like a motherfucker.
Boebert was ejected for causing a disturbance at the show. But thanks to the high-quality cameras there in that theater, Boebert had to change her tune and apologize after surveillance video revealed that she was indeed vaping, as well as she and her companion.
She finger cussing. You see, they blurted it out. And yes, you can use that. She is finger cussing. She's using her fingers in a profane way. Have I ever flipped somebody off? Yeah, maybe early in my life. Yeah, flipping people off is for the weak and for women. Yeah, if you can't whoop a motherfucker, then you flip them off. But I done drove up to people or people that cut me off in the lane and then they flip me off. And usually that person can't fight, don't want to fight, and that's how they cuss. They use their fingers, do a little finger cussing. But This lady got her bosom damn near hanging out. She has this guy behind him. He has a wood, and ain't no telling what's in that cup. That cup was probably 100% guava, 100% tequila. 100% tequila. So it is what it is.
Explicitly groping each other repeatedly while they were in their seats. Congresswoman, a mother of four and a grandmother, said, quote, I simply fell short of my values on Sunday.
Jonathan, when you said explicitly groping each other, what does that mean?
I mean,
Why would he ask a question? When you say explicitly groping each other, what does that mean? Well, how a bunch of grown people ask a question when a bunch of other grown people act like they don't know what that means? Explicitly groping means that you rub it hard, you won't stop, you're grabbing some breasts, she's grabbing some crotch. They can't keep their hands off each other. That's what you call explicitly groping. That's common sense. And for him to be a grown man and not know what explicit groping is, I don't know. I don't think she had his Johnson out stroking it. I don't think she was doing that. And I don't think he was just had one of her breasts out and he was just going to town on it. But they probably just couldn't keep their hands off each other. They was full of that weed. They was full of that liquor, that tequila, and they was having a good time. And it turned out to be a little bit too good of a time.
To answer that, I think.
I think Lauren Boebert is not one known for reaching across the aisle in the Congress, but there was some of that here with her male companion.
Everybody got jokes. She's not one for reaching across the aisle, but she was here. I wonder how long it took him to come up with that joke. It was a good one, though. It really wasn't just hilarious, but you know.
A lot of let's say they were handsy in their behavior. So Kenny K, as we marvel again at the flash photos and the vaping and the other lewd behavior, let's call it groping. Just another example of Republican hypocrisy to you.
I'm just glad that I'm not the one being asked to describe what groping means. It's kind of rare, isn't it, to hear?
Who in the hell would want to grope you? Of course, you couldn't explain it. This lady looked like a female Dr. Seuss. The only thing missing is a goddamn top hat. Nobody wants to grope you, cat lady. I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't have a tail hanging out the back of her chair. Some of these old hags ought to be ashamed. She wishes she could find a young companion male to go to the movies to grope and play with her, because nobody wants to grope and play with this old hag. Nobody. It's a little bit of jealousy coming from some of these women.
Lauren Boebert be sort of even vaguely apologetic about anything. She just doesn't do it very much. But I guess when you've just won your election by about whatever it was, 5 votes, you need to make sure that you hang on to all of the votes you possibly can.
This lady looked like a bunch of crumpets and old ass teas. This old Englander, this old Brit ought to be ashamed even getting on here talking about this. Because she's finished and she's completely washed up.
Which I suppose is why she's sort of changed her tune-up. It's kind of a change of character for her to come out in anything other than defiant mode. So I think she realizes that this doesn't go down particularly well.
And let me ask you this. What the hell could Al Sharpton honestly add to this with all of the chicanery in his background? Yeah, I'm not going to watch another second of this. Once I seen Al Sharpton, I know for a fact it went way too far down the street at this point. But let's go on to the next clip. Question remained after 2 models found dead in separate downtown LA high-rise apartments. Now, downtown LA, they build a lot of these high-rise apartments. Very nice. They have nice rooftops, and the apartments have a lot of cameras. There's cameras everywhere. So, do I think they'll find somebody? The question, absolutely, they better. If not, then I'm going to assume that this was some kind of ritualistic sacrifice. And whoever is ritualistic sacrificing, they're into ritualistic sacrificing young black women. So, it's a terrible thing. But let's take a look at the clip.
Since our story first aired, one mother said that she's been contacted by 2 other parents saying that their daughters were killed in downtown Los Angeles, and now they fear there could be a serial predator.
As a parent, you never want to go through this.
A family desperately searching for answers after the young model daughter was found dead in her downtown.
And a lot of these young black female, not young, but a lot of these female models who are black women, they usually into white men too. So you never know. But these type of high-rise apartments, there are cameras in the parking garage, the elevator, the hallway, at the door, right outside the door, up and down the street, around, across the street, looking at the building. So somebody should get found and somebody should be being questioned. There's no doubt about that.
High rise, less than a week after another model was killed in her apartment just a mile away. There's still no answers as to what happened.
That's the worst part of not knowing.
Nicole Coates was 32 years old and a successful model. Melissa Mooney was 31 years old, also a model and real estate agent.
When you say somebody's a model and a real estate agent, all that means is that the modeling them pretty much ran out, because models are usually going to be in their peak from anywhere from 16 to about 23, 24. That's their peak. Now, after that, you can still, if you're a top-notch model and made your way through the industry, you still can do some things. But usually that's why they said model/real estate agent.
Say Melissa was killed, but haven't revealed yet Nicole's cause of death. In fact, they've released very little information about either case. While the two cases may just sound coincidental, some fear there's cause to sound the alarm.
In this case, unfortunately, it looks like they met in their own apartment. So obviously that makes me believe that somebody that they trusted to allow into their own home, then the worst happened.
Former LAPD Detective Moses Castillo says sadly young models are preyed upon. There have been countless cases.
They want to present themselves and look, with their looks, white brains, we can make lots of money, and they make all these promises. But once they're there, they get sexually exploited, they get forced into doing things that they don't want to.
Ultimately,
yes, that does happen a lot in Los Angeles. But the thing is, this should happen at their homes, which makes it extremely odd, because somebody was able to gain entry into the apartment, and that would make you assume that they knew the person, because usually people aren't kicking down apartments in very nice condos. I ain't saying it never happens, but it almost never happens. So some rotten in Denmark with this whole thing. Now, the police did say they're not releasing anything. They don't want to talk. That means 9 times out of 10 they have a few leads that they following, and they don't want to tip anybody off to anything. So usually when I hear that lets me know that the police, they are on to something.
These families want answers and want others to come forward if their daughters too died from a mysterious death.
I'm going to keep at this until I find out what happened.
Keep at it, sister.
Who else has experienced the same thing that I have? Maybe this will help. I know it will.
Now, I did something that just crossed my mind. Both of these young ladies are in their 30s and single. Where's your man? Where's your husband? And ain't nothing wrong with being single. It's not. But this whole thing of being single indefinitely is ridiculous, because that's your protector. There are black women out here, black women on the internet saying stuff. But why black men don't protect? Ain't no random nigga fits to just protect you. It's your man's job to protect you. It's your husband's job, your boyfriend, etc. It's his job to protect you. Not your brother, not your dad. Once you leave your father's house, yes, he is, but in a world where things are upright and in an orderly fashion, it would be your husband. Like, I understand we don't live in yesteryear society. We do live in a different society now, but by God, when you're in your 30s, it's time to start making some moves, because you're just vulnerable out here. You're out here with nobody, basically. Beautiful, still, and black people, damn well we age slow. We got some biblical aging on us, so we last very long. God forbid we eat right and healthy and exercise. Have you seen Angela Bassett? Denzel Washington? Morgan Freeman? Samuel Jackson was an old nigga when I was a young nigga. Now I'm an older nigga. He's still an old nigga. He ain't aging. I mean, these people, when black people have it together, man, we still look good. So these people playing a dangerous game of being single for a long time. As you can see, there was no man in the house, and it makes it easy for a man to come in the house. Like right now, if my wife and daughter was here by herself, and somebody knew they would be more inclined to come over. But if they knew I was here, I ain't saying they wouldn't come, but the chances are extremely low because they know I'm gonna get active. So it is what it is. But rest in peace to these two sisters. Condolences go out to the family, but this is a terrible situation. I do think the police are on to something now.
Castillo tells me these assaults are underreported and worries that people have not reported them. So if it has happened to you, do contact the LAPD. I also reached out to the department for an interview and they refused to comment. In fact, they gave no details. We are live in downtown LA. Jennifer McGraw, KTLA 5 News. A lot of people have that thought.
Yeah, it is what it is with that. Terrible situation, but I will be recovering that case if they find anything out. Hunter Biden suing the IRS alleging assault to damage his reputation. Now, look, Hunter Biden is playing a very, very scary game for him and his family. Suing the IRS is like stepping into a snake pit because God knows you haven't lived on the up and up. You haven't done anything correctly. Now, Hunter Biden is an ex-crackhead, which is surprising based on the simple fact that you have cocaine and all these other drugs, but he's such a low-life scumbag. He went to old school crack. Yeah, this is a real dirt bag. And it's shocking that he was about to get a sweetheart deal, but then whistleblowers came out and tore his ass up. And they reported everything that was happening in their case, and they weren't allowed to do their job and interview the people they wanted to interview and ask the questions they wanted to ask to get to the bottom of this whole Hunter Biden situation. But yeah, Hunter Biden he's walking on thin ice with spiked boots. We're trying to sue the IRS, man. Suing the IRS is that's like walking into a black mama's house and spitting and slapping. Like, you ain't supposed to get to doing that shit. That'll get you killed. But let's take a look at the clip.
Hunter Biden sued the Internal Revenue Service today, the president's son arguing the agency violated his privacy rights when two whistleblowers testified about a tax investigation. Ryan Nobles has that story.
Tonight, Hunter Biden suing the IRS, arguing the agency and two whistleblower employees have sought.
And as you can see, Hunter Biden walking through this gala or some kind of, event, nice suit, looks like a distinguished gentleman. And behind the scenes, he's a complete degenerate. And a lot of these people are complete degenerates. Don't let a nice suit and somebody walking completely upright fool you. And people put people on pedestals all the time, whether it be athletes, actresses, actors. It doesn't matter. Presidents, Congress, you put people on a pedestal. Behind the scenes, these be some of the most wickedest people on the planet Earth. They do some of the most debauched things you could possibly think of, whether it's sleeping with children, whether it's eating shit, whether it's pissing on each other, whether it's doing crack cocaine, whether it's sleeping with men, whatever you can think of that's at the bottom of the barrel, these people are doing it. So it doesn't surprise me. And a nice suit ain't never fooled me. And walking upright and carrying yourself in class publicly doesn't mean that you're a classy person behind the scenes.
To publicly damage his reputation.
And what you're doing when people ain't looking is really who you are.
Those two agents testified under oath. The Justice Department gave the president's son special treatment in its tax investigation. Biden's lawsuit says the whistleblowers, quote, sought to embarrass Mr. Biden via public statements to the media in which they and their representatives disclosed confidential information about a private citizen's tax matters. Career IRS agent and whistleblower Joe Ziegler recently telling NBC's Tom Winter investigators were prevented from interviewing witnesses.
We were hamstrung by prosecutors assigned to the case constantly.
Attorneys for whistleblower Gary Shapley calling the lawsuit a, quote, frivolous smear by Biden family attorneys to intimidate any current and future whistleblowers. Biden was just indicted on 3 gun charges and faces the possibility of additional tax charges after the plea deal struck with prosecutors that would have allowed him to avoid prison time imploded under a judge's scrutiny. And a spokesperson for the IRS tells NBC News they do not comment on pending litigation.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about break.
Hunter Biden is Hunter Biden made his own bed. Now he has to lie in it. And it may be piss and shit in it and all type of other things and needles and crack pipes, but he has to snuggle up at this point. He's going down a deep, dark road, and his whole life has been a deep, dark road. So we'll see where this whole thing's headed with Hunter Biden. This next case, Delphi murders were ritualistic sacrifices by white supremacist group. And I talk about ritualistic sacrifices all the time on this channel. And pagan worship of the Baphomet, aka Pan. In Rome, he was known as Faunus. Over and over again about some of these things that's going on. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. All of these religions that people practice in the dark and in the woods, is in these cabins and off in these rural areas, is just old religions based off the ancient Babylonian mystery school teachings, believe it or not. But these two young girls who were ritualistic sacrifice are not surprising to me. Not only do they ritualistically sacrifice them, they also ritualistically sexually abuse these people. And that's called sex magic when they ritualistically abuse children. They feel like they can gain power through that, which comes from Aleister Crowley, one of the head Satanists in the modern times. And they all practice sex magic behind the scenes. Let's take a look at this clip.
The Delphi murder case up in Indiana, the defense team for Richard Allen dropped new documents alleging Libby German and Abby Williams were killed by a white supremacist group. The 136-page document filed just this morning claims Abby and Libby were killed by Oninus. The girls' bodies were found in Delphi Mountain High Bridge in February of 2017.
Let's read that. Member of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism. Now, if you ever watched the movie Thor, his father's name was Odin. We know that the day Thursday is actually Thor Day. That the actual day Thursday was named after Thor. So all of these things tie in together. Am I surprised? Absolutely not. These things happen all of the time across the United States of ritualistically sacrificing children. Now, this was a white supremacist group. Imagine what they do when they get a small black child, because a lot of black children go missing all the time. And there'd be a lot of these type of groups that do it. And in some of these small rural areas, not only are they doing these things, but the whole town is in on it to an extent. What I mean by that is the police department, the little small police department, have 5 or 6 cops, and 3 of the cops are part of the Odinism, the Norse pagan religion of Odinism. No doubt about it.
According to the defense team, Odinism is a pagan Norse religion and white nationalist group.
God damn. You talking about some tracks to hell. That looks like, I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie. When I was growing up, they had a movie called The Blair Witch Project. That looks exactly like the Blair Witch Project was. Look at that old railroad bridge right to your death. My gods. My God, guys. This is this is some shit right here.
Filings say the two groups are responsible for the crime, one of them from Delphi, the other from the Rushville area. And those documents allege the groups were investigated for their involvement in the crimes, but the defense team says they were never made aware of those investigations.
And this city is named Delphi, like I said in the beginning of the video. And they had the oracles of Delphi in ancient Greece. And the Greeks will go to the oracles, and the oracles will be under some kind of trance and drug-induced trance, and they will be giving out visions and giving out. Anyway, I think most people have seen the movie 300. That's where Leonidas went. Leonidas went to the oracles of Delphi. So all these things, like I said, it always ties together, believe it or not.
Claim investigators found ritualistic symbols at the scene, including the way that Libby's body was positioned.
And they always say ritualistic symbols. Well, what symbols was it? They don't want you to know that.
Well, this is not the only movement we've seen in this case lately. Just last week, Allen's defense team revised a request to throw out evidence collected from a search warrant at his home. The claim was that the warrant was overly generic, didn't prove evidence would be found inside the home. Allen's team also stated they do want cameras in the courtroom during the trial. The trial is scheduled for January of next year.
Like I said, you guys, A lot of these times in these small towns, the police be in on it. Some of the police department, some of the judges in these small rural areas, they're not following the same laws and rules and regulations and the amendments and all that. They're not doing that shit. They making their own laws and rules. And it's all like she can get real treacherous. There's no doubt about that. But they were ritualistically sacrificed in Delphi. Look at this next clip. Military finds debris from missing jet fighter. Now, they have these jets that are built by Boeing and Lockheed Martin. And I remember maybe almost 20 years ago when it was a huge hubbub about trying to build the best jet and win the military contracts. Now, it was three companies. I think it was Boeing, Lockheed Martin. There was one more. I can't think of the other one, but I know Boeing and Lockheed Martin was fighting down to the end. And Lockheed Martin ended up winning that. That was in the early 2000s, like 2000, maybe 2000, anywhere between 2004 and 2006, in that little area. But Lockheed Martin won that. And there was some huge discussion that Lockheed Martin win that on the up and up, and was they actually able to build the best future fighter jet. And at the time, the jet they were building was the F-22 Raptor, which was a stealth fighter jet, one of the first of its kind. And all of these companies, in order to get the contract, you have to actually build a jet, have the military come out, they display what the jet can do, the functions. They have to try to get the best pilot, the pilot, show everything the jet can do. And Lockheed Martin won. Now, when you get the military contracts, the contract could be for $60, $70 billion. But by time the budget is actually turned in, all of a sudden it's 120. So you damn near then doubled the budget. The type of wasteful spending. The jet ain't doing what it's supposed to do. This glitch is messing up with this. It's like when they programming this shit, the programming is very complex. So even when you fix something within the programming, it can mess something else up. How do I know that? Because they have the same problems in video games with servers. Like if you fix one thing, it can actually mess up something else. So this is something that's been going on back and forth. Now, I'm talking about the F-22 Raptor, which was the first fighter, 2006. Now we've jumped forward. Now we're into F-35. The F-35 is supposed to be even more advanced and even better. And all of a sudden, the budget is out of control. The jet is not working how they want it to work. Now, mind you this, there's a bunch of other countries who order these jets. You pay for these jets before you even get the jets. It's like the Cybertruck. You got to pay for the Cybertruck, then you get the Cybertruck. And the reason they have you pay for it first is because that's going to help them actually build the plane. Well, let's take a look at the clip.
News coming in at this hour, an F-35 U.S. fighter jet missing for nearly 24 hours after the pilot had ejected. Word coming in now, reports of wreckage just now being found. Here's Martha Ratz.
Tonight, the mystery solved. After more than 24 hours of searching, the military has found the debris from the missing F-35, one of the most sophisticated fighter jets in the world, one with a price tag of more than $100 million.
And as you can see, I remember the Harrier jets can, take off from a standstill and land at a standstill where it just comes straight down, where it doesn't have to hit like on the, what's them ships called? Aircraft carriers. On the aircraft carrier, how the jet has to come in and land. Now these jets can just take off, go straight up and then out. And then when they come down, they could just come land straight down. But the thing is, it's a lot of technology in these jets. And that's a huge problem when it comes to programming. I'm not a programmer. I don't claim to be, but I do understand some of the basic concepts of when you fix one thing, another thing goes out. And I also know for a fact, over watching the news and have been watching Military Channel for a very long time, that these jets have had an inordinate amount of technical problems and issues. And they have not been ready for actual combat. That's the biggest problem with the F-35, and that was one of the biggest problems with the F-22.
It vanished Sunday afternoon in South Carolina. The pilot of the F-35 ejecting near Joint Base Charleston after reports of an undisclosed mishap in the cockpit. He was transported to a medical center and is now listed in stable condition.
Well, me reading in between the lines, something blew up in the cockpit. Something caught fire, because when it blew up and caught fire, it hurt him. So he had to eject immediately. It wasn't like he caught fire and was trying to do, go through proper procedures or try to put some shit out. No, whatever happened, it hurt him. Yeah. So he got the hell out of Dodge immediately. He knew he was probably going to die in there if he didn't get out of that cockpit.
But there was
And that's just my opinion. I could be wrong, maybe some different information, but they'll never tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. You can forget about that.
no sign of the fighter jet, prompting the base to plead on social media. If you have any information that may help our recovery teams locate the F-35, please call the Base Defense Operations Center.
That is the most egregious thing I've ever heard the Air Force say. How the fuck do you lose the most technologically advanced warplane on the planet Earth? Where's the beacon system? I know that it's stealth, but you should be able to read your own stealth planes. That's number one. Number two, whatever technical difficulties that you having with this plane, you need to go back to the drawing board with this whole thing. That is mind-boggling. I've never heard that before.
Charleston Congresswoman Nancy Mace tweeting, "How in the hell do you lose an F-35? We knew the F-35 was stealth, but this is ridiculous." The jet is equipped with a transponder, a beacon that should indicate where the jet crashed, and military radar is supposed to be able to track a jet's location. But this one took a while.
If there was a electrical failure on board where the transponder beams out to the radar no longer functioning, then it becomes a stealth aircraft, essentially invisible to radar.
And the question is, why wouldn't it be functioning? Why wouldn't it be functioning? This is a $1 billion jet. One costs $1 billion.
At that point, it would have disappeared off the air traffic control radar screen.
The Marine Corps is going to have a lot of questions to answer in the days ahead about why it took so long, but finding the aircraft,
And I'm sorry, I said the Air Force. This was the Marine Corps.
which they now have, is key to answering many of those questions. David?
Martha Raddatz with late reporting from Washington tonight. Martha, thanks as always.
Unbelievable. We got two last clips, you guys. You have non-juvenile inmates captured after escape. Now, when you're a young man and you in jail, I never was young and in jail, but I'm assuming you have dreams of grandeur and you think that you're going to escape from jail and you're going to find the keys to a Lamborghini and there's going to be a bad bitch sitting in it and you're going to ride around, listen to Future new album, smoking on a wood with the best weed in it, and then you're going to go get you some Popeyes while you get some head riding through the city living the dream. But what actually happens when you escape, there's nowhere to turn, there's nowhere to run. Somehow it's always cold and it's always raining. You hungry, you thirsty, and don't nobody know which way to go. And before you know it, you wishing you was back in jail. And you wish you never did this dumb boneheaded shit because I only had 6 months to do. What in the hell was I thinking letting this nigga talk me into escape? But when you get out there, it ain't nothing like you think. In your mind, you can always build up all type of things and all type of scenarios. But reality is a motherfucker. And for these non-juvenile inmates, the reality set in extremely fast. Let's take a look at the clip.
All 9 teenagers who escaped custody at a juvenile detention center northwest of Philadelphia are back in custody. Those teens escaped Roxas Academy last night. 4 of the teenagers were taken into custody this morning after less than 10 hours on the run. We're told they knocked on a resident's door and surrendered. About an hour later, the other 5 stole a pickup truck, but police were nearby and caught up with them.
Oh, 3 of them did actually find something. It wasn't a Lamborghini, but it was a pickup truck. Yeah, this shit didn't even last 24 hours because you got to realize these juveniles, their brains aren't really developed. and these guys really had no true plan. I don't know why people always escape from jail. It's not like if it's to go live a normal life after that. Everybody thinks you gonna get out. I'm gonna go get my ex-girlfriend pregnant. We're gonna get an apartment and we're gonna ride through the city living happily ever after. Brother, that ain't how it happened. If anything, dogs is on your trail, police sirens is everywhere, helicopters is on top of it. You're tired, you're thirsty, you're hungry, and you don't know which way to go.
Police say the teenagers escaped after they overpowered 2 female employees and took their keys. Police say they used extreme caution while attempting to track the teens.
Could one of those teenage boys kill a cop? They absolutely could. So we're always
Sorry, white man. These young teenage boys was never going to kill a cop. Sounds good in theory, but obviously you always have to protect yourself. You never know. This was just a bad decision by some young men, and they're going to pay for it. I'm assuming that some of them was black or most of them was black, and whoever decided to go on this mission, because always one or two guys bright ass idea. Yeah, because I got a bitch. What she gonna do is she gonna cook us some steaks. We're gonna have shrimp. We're gonna smoke some blunts. And guess what? She just bought me a new Xbox. She got the new Madden. And I'm gonna just be out front. I'm gonna park the Lambo, and then you guys gonna go up and get the steak and shrimp. Nigga, it ain't none of that. And before you know it, one of the young men was knocking on the door. Somebody's random door and told him to call the police. He was ready to go back to jail. So it is what it is. Lesson learned. I'll say this other clip for tomorrow. Texas high school defends decision to suspend black 17-year-old because of his hairstyle. I don't know what white people's fascination is with Negroes' hair and trying to set all these rules on it. Maybe they know something we don't about our hair. Or maybe it's jealousy. I don't know. Maybe they think the white girls are going to like it or do like it. I don't know, but it's a mystery. But I'm going to cover this in the next video. But yeah, this has been a great news cycle right here. All type of things going on, all type of chicanery. But I appreciate you guys tuning in, man. This has been Sports Life and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's #1 couch detective. I'm here for the news. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I just took your ass on Delphi. Murders were ritualistic in nature. Right. Peace.